Well, hello. I'm Adam Rushford. This is a little bit of a test stream to make sure that everything is set up. I've spent about 48 hours or longer setting this all up so that I can do some finally time to redo my old C++ tutorials that I started 15 years ago. Did it just cut me off? I saw the lag. 15 years ago I started doing some tutorials I never really finished, and I can see the world shifted and it's turning and things are going this way and that way. Anyway, we're here to learn some C++. So this is a little test stream. Get some things worked out here, and then we are going to start from the very bottom of C++. We're going to work all the way to our own video game. We're going to make our own game engine, our own rendering engine, turn that into a game engine, everything. All in between, all modular, all of the systems. And the wonderful part about this is I've already done most of it, but we're going to implement the rendering to it together. And we're also going to make it cross-platform together. So those are the main things that this is going to be about. Is that we're going to show an implementation to an actual engine for rendering, and we're going to what was the other thing? We're going to also go all the way from, we're going to show you how to code C++ all the way to a game, but we're going to make the whole thing modular the whole way so that you can see how each step in one of these libraries for separate projects, not just games, but rendering projects, and then we'll get down to like things that don't use complex 3D rendering, to just like an entry point system or a mathematical engine that doesn't actually do the rendering, down to just like an entry point system that allows you to make other software without having to code the entry point for each operating system. For every case, you want to do UWP, you want to do WinAPI, you want those to work together. All that's already written. Now, if you just give me a moment, I'm going to actually switch this to on break. I'm going to go see, hang on just a second, see if everything is functioning. Nobody wants to look at my dresser. What on earth are you guys saying already? Hostage, what? What is all this? And there's a Russian. He says, no! So, I need some more coffee before we even get started. So, 15 years ago, I started learning C++, and you can tell I'm a professional because I drink coffee while I code. Okay, let's just jump into this real quick. Apologize for the mic. I'm using my phone as a camera, and that hum is actually, I believe, coming from the fan on the computer, which is, I can barely hear it, but the stream picks it up because it's over that direction. I tried moving it, but that didn't help so much. So anyway, if you've never coded before, here's the first thing you need to do. Let me see here. You need a desktop view. Which one is that? I don't know if I actually made one. I thought I did, but it's gone. Let me see. Let's try this. This is going to get weird for a second because it's going to show everything. That's not right. Was it stretch or fit? Fit? We're probably going to need to get this to fit a little better so you can see better. Okay, so here's what you need to do. You want to code? You want to code C++? You want to make game engines? You want to make games? This is how you begin. You're going to go, let's say you're on Windows 11. You can do the same thing on Linux, but I'm not going to go through these details on how to do it. And I don't know that you even need to do this on Linux. But you go into the File Explorer. It's this thing down here. Oh, you can't even see that. Oh, there we go. Okay. Yeah, just block me out. That's fine. Here, in case that's bothering anybody. There we go. Okay, so what we've got here is the File Explorer. See this little symbol down here? On Windows 11, it looks like a little file folder down here, but pretty much any file folder will do. Just go into a file on your computer on Windows, and there you go. And what you'll be presented with, hopefully, is this bar right here, and you'll see this view. And you need to go to Show, and you need to enable the file name extensions and the hidden items, because those are very important in programming. The hidden items, not so much, but there are some hidden files with Visual Studio and whatnot. So, first thing you need to do is turn on those file extensions. And if you're familiar with that, the way that computers tell data, the difference between data and the way that they use that to automatically open programs that run those specific data, basically you have a default program for every type of data. So you have Notepad, Word, I don't know, you might have Sublime Text or Vim, whatever. You've got something. You've got some text editors on your computer. Windows used to come with 2 of them, and the junkier one was, for whatever reason, the default. Anyway, the point is you'll see a .txt or a .exe or a .something after the name of all of your files on your computer once you enable this, and that will allow you to tell the difference in what type of data it is. And when you figure out that txt means text, then we can switch over to this view. this need to be? Oh, okay. Well, I guess my audio doesn't get captured if I hide that. Hang on a second. Let me fix some stuff here before I forget. Okay. All right. So, we opened up, this is just a notepad. Now, a notepad, if you want to program for computers, you're basically writing a book. But it's a book of logic in which you cannot make a bunch of spelling mistakes. If you do, you'll need a tool to tell you about those mistakes so you can correct them, because when you compile it into a program, it basically, unless it's logical in some form, it may not work, but unless it's logical, it won't compile. And you need like tools to manage that. Kind of like you have Microsoft Word for a replacement for Notepad, you have what's called an IDE in replacement for Notepad as far as code goes. So if you wanted to write a book, you'd get MS Word or something of that nature. If you want to write code, you get what's known as an IDE. It stands for, what is it, Independent Development Environment? No, excuse me, integrated integrated development environment, I believe it is. So, whatever, it doesn't really matter. IDE is all you need to know. The most famous one for Microsoft, they have their own. It's called Visual Studio, and the newest one is 2022. You get the community version, that's the free version. You sign up for a personal version. Free, it's free pass. The only thing you're not getting in that version is the team-based stuff, the stuff that's for studios so that they can work on code together. Fine, dandy, you got a personal version. Okay. So you can actually still code in Notepad though, and that's what we're going to do right now. We're going to build a basic program in Notepad in C++ 20, not completely sidestepping where C++ comes from, why it's related to C code, and how you can use it in conjunction to it. But the first thing I want to state, because this is a huge misconception over the internet, and we're going to learn about this like right away, is that C++ is not, it is not, I repeat it, not a superset of C, but it does kind of act like it is, and that's why I think people got confused over the years. Now, 15 years ago, C++ was very different, and there was a nuance to it that caused me, including me, and a lot, apparently everyone else had the same problem. They started using friend classes and inheritance too much and just kind of got lost in the code. It broke, and nobody could really figure out how to make anything work back then. I didn't realize that wasn't just a personal problem. In fact, I didn't know how good I was as a coder until I just recently released some of my code and found that other people's code was either pretty much the same thing, or that it solved a lot of problems that, in other words, there's other free libraries out there that it compares to that it seems to be better than. Not by much, but a little bit, enough for me to realize that I'm a better, more competent coder than I originally thought. This is the start of a C++ program. In fact, I'm not even going to write it because I already wrote it. And when you do this in an IDE, it's going to be a bit different. It's going to give you IntelliSense. It's kind of like autocomplete. And that's the number one reason you want to use Visual Studio, as opposed to something like. Now, at some point in the series, we're going to try to make a VS Code, and that actually has more to do with cross-platform than anything else, because I don't really care for the program. It doesn't have, or at least when I started using it, didn't have all the IntelliSense built into it quite as well. So it wasn't what it is today then. But there's a long story of C++, but we can pretty much sum it up with my experience with it, because I pretty much didn't get involved with it any more than the story that you need to know about it. Another thing I can mention about my C++ experience is that I started with an engine a long time ago called the Earlift engine. It's IRR. Licht. It was made by an Austrian-German fella, and it's since gone. The technology is basically ancient now. It was originally made in an older fashion to begin with, so it never got updated enough to keep up with what it is, what rendering now, which is completely different than what it used to be. Very little of the engine could be used in my engine, for example. Anyway, that's a little bit of background from me. So what you're looking at here is, this is actually including other files. A number of files go behind IO stream, which stands for in-out stream. And this includes, there's a couple ways you can do it actually. You can do it I don't know if there's an actual .h file for that, but this is how you'd normally include other files that you'd create. Your files are going to have extensions like we talked about, and these extensions can have just one letter like this. They can be 4 letters, but in Windows, only 3 of them are recognized, and only one of them is necessary. We're not going to get too deep into the functioning of Windows unless we need to, but what you need to understand is that this is basically a more advanced version of this. And when we get into making our own files and all that, this will be explained more later. I just wanted to show you the basic, how do we get started right now, do a little test stream, make sure everything's working properly, get everything named properly. Probably not even going to start up my music. That's how little we're going to get involved in this one. But this is a basic program. IO stream allows you to do in and out functions to the console, because in Windows, this is, oh, I just lost light. But in Windows, this is the basic console entry point. And this is basically, this is a standard library. It's not Windows code. It's actually C++ standard. It's like extras for C++. And Windows defines this as their entry point for a terminal or a console program. And these extras will allow you to communicate in that console. This goes all the way back to C code. And we're going to start with a function called cout. And it's called left shifts. Actually, it's the standard template library. We'll get into this a little bit more. But just know we have to call into the library, and that this is a function within the library, and that this is called a left shift. And let's see, what else do we need here? Oops. Okay, so what have we got here? So we got included library that's going to allow you to use this function. But I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. I did tell you that this is the entry point to the console. It's basically a function itself. It's also it is a function, and it calls to a function within Windows and gives you the terminal. It gets a lot more complex if you try to do the user interface enabled version. That gets to be a much more complex subject. And this right is called scope, or it's called either curly brackets, and within the curly brackets is the scope of the function, meaning that this function is going to fire as a callback within Windows. So when you call it, it's going to get called at some point. And then when it gets called at that point, it's going to run whatever is between these two brackets. non-stop, and then it's going to exit back out to wherever this was called, which is actually here, and it's going to spit out the other end. So whatever code we were to write in here, for example, like if we did this, for example, we could actually fire up another entry point, except for the fact that you're only allowed to have one deep within the code. So it won't actually work, but essentially it would run over and over procedurally. And I guess in this case, because it's firing function after function, it would be functionally as well, because that's basically all that means. So without going too deep into the history of C++ and all that, what you basically need to understand is that object-oriented programming used to be the way 15 years ago or 10 years ago. And it didn't work out so well. And the language itself got kind of a new guideline. A lot of people express that you need to do functional programming over object-oriented programming. We're actually going to show you how you do a mixture of them. And the reason why is because object-oriented programming should be basically used linearly, and there's a lot of functionality within it that never really functioned the way it was intended to function, and they've kind of since abandoned it. And the friend class is what I'm referring to. And inheritance can get real tricky as well. So anyway, along with my ancient tutorials on C++, let's talk about copyrights real quick. You're automatically copywritten. Just like if you wrote a book, it's automatically copywritten. And in the United States and other countries that observe copyrights, basically everywhere except Russia and China, they will actually protect your rights and allow you to sue people that misuse your works and things like this. But there's plenty of open source out there. We don't really need to do that. And that's what I do. I create that. And anyway, let's get back to the cout. This is the standard template library. It's a namespace, and this calls into a namespace. And this is a function within the stream. And the left shift literally takes this value right here and shoves it into what would normally be this for a function. This part ends the line. It's a C++ function or operation that will basically end this line of code and proceed to the next. Now you can actually write over here, like if you function, literally do that as well. That's going to kind of lead into what we're going to do next. Like I said, this is all kind of a procedural waterfall kind of a thing. It fires this, it fires this, it fires this, line by line. And then there's something called like a go-to, or the functions themselves are a sort of a go-to. Like if I wanted to create a function up here. But I don't want to get too complicated in the very beginning. I just want you to understand that you need to enable the file extensions, learn what a text file is or a .txt, write some code into it, and be able to compile it. Now, I'm not actually going to show you how to compile this just yet. Like I said, this is a test stream, and we're just getting started. And we may go over this many times. But anyway, you would develop functions, and you could fire these functions on your own. And this code will actually go from here up to here, and then back out the other end. Okay? And it gets a little complicated. And then when you start to give another abstraction layer of that same type of style with object-oriented programming, that can get so complex that you actually lose your place, and that's why it's not recommended to use number one anymore. You almost can't avoid it, though, and I'll show you that later. But this here is actually a string or a string of characters. We'll get way more into that subject. Because they drive the heart of, well, programming in general. And they're also the heated topic of hacking and security. So basically, you can kind of see what this program is intended to do. It fires up an entry point into a console. The console prints this little string. It'll actually just print this part into the console, output it into the console. We'll show you that in a little bit here. These streams are going to be really long and lots of them, and this is probably going to be the shortest, sweetest one. So enjoy what you learned here. It may be the most concise thing I say throughout our interactions on these streams. So, what is going on in the comments? It's IRR. Oh, is that how you type it in German or something? I don't know. IRRLICHT. There's no point in looking at that code though. It's 13 to 15-year-old code, and it won't work. It'll actually break your computer. I've had it running, but it's very damaged. It runs on OpenGL, and it's like an old version. You could probably update it, but that would be very fruitless. So that is the basic Hello World program for basically C through C++ 23. You've seen it lots of other places. There's lots of these Hello World programs. But most of these C++ series or tutorials don't go all the way. There's a handful of other people out there that have done very similar series or podcasts or whatever you want to call them, blog posts, whatever. But they almost don't. Well, one thing they're not going to do that I am going to do is do it at a very rapid pace. We're going to start from the very beginning and go right to we're not totally to the end, but we're going to get right up into some very complex programming very quickly, just to show the process and try to throw as much knowledge out there as possible, so that it exists, basically, because there seems to be a severe lack of like good video tutorials for C++ that do such a thing. The Churno is that's one of the best sources out there for what I'm getting at here. But even he tends to be very far and few between. He goes very high quality with the videos. It's a different form. It's almost a form of entertainment than it is a hardcore tutorial series. And I kind of want to fall somewhere in the middle of there. We're super low budget. I say we. It's just me and the fam. And speaking of which, I don't know if I about 48 hours setting up just the equipment and the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 scenes just in OBS, and I could use more. Here, let me switch it since I made all these fancy scenes, right? You can watch me drink coffee. So, where was I? Formulas. Thank you for broadcast. You're welcome. Future generations will use this for time travel portals. Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, man. Stick with the series. You're going to love what I have to show you after saying that. That was a beautiful comment. Thank you for that. Formulas, yes. Let me tell you something else about me in programming. Like I said, I found out I'm good kind of by accident. I think well, here's something we need to talk about, is why C++ kind of fell off and why nobody programs, or very few people program in it today. It basically has this really good niche as a language that's good for producing game engines. It allows the very low level coding into the driver and all that. That's what DX12 are all about now. You pretty much need it in order to do the ray tracing. And also, we're not going to be able to get into the ray tracing until I get a new PC sometime, hopefully next year. Because I don't have a card that can support RTX. But we can get into the differentiating and we can get it going. Oh man. I really didn't even plan on doing all this just yet. There was people here, so I'm like, why don't I just go ahead and keep rolling with it for now. But I'm going to end this one for now. I'm going to make sure it turned out nice. I'll probably be back to stream. I don't know if I'll... This coffee, man. It's got me, like, vibrating. Yeah, put that down. But we'll probably be up for quite a while. Let me think here. I wish I could like replay the stream right now, what I covered, so I could add the little missing pieces to that. But that's basically what I'm going to go do. I'll go over it and figure out what I missed, and we'll just continue on, and it's going to be a constant continuation. We're going to try to do this. And I had a bunch of lights on, but my this one's bald. I don't know what its problem is. It just works when it feels like it. And this one's on a stupid the robot, you know, the name that you shouldn't name because it activates. It has some weird routine that keeps. I gotta fix that. That's gonna mess up my streams big time. So anyway, it's dark in here now, so I'll give you one chance to look at this before I shut this down for now. And then what I recommend you do if you want to get prepared would be to go and install Visual Studio 2022 and don't really get anything set up. You want to do your basic installation or whatever. If you get confused on the installation, just go with the basic recommended regular old settings. That reminds me that when I go through that, I'm not really going to be able to show you a lot of that because I have a lot of this all installed already. But anyway, I can't do everything for you, but I can take someone who can't code and take you all the way to the level of game design if you really have it in you. So that's what we're going to attempt to do. And like I said, I need to go over this stream real quick and see what I kind of missed, because we really need, this part is kind of crucial. So you really need to understand the concepts. Maybe take some time yourself and review it and go over it, and then we'll get started, right? We usually end my videos with a happy coding, so we'll try that with the streams as well, I guess. So we'll see you in the next one here, probably, maybe very shortly, probably definitely tonight, and hopefully I don't confuse people like I did back in the past, because it seemed like they went through my tutorial and they were like, I still don't get it. But hopefully people have advanced along with me over the years and they're a little more PC minded or tech minded, and they can start to figure this out, or they've got the time, or maybe you're just returning to try it again and you got to go through this all over again. Well, hopefully I put enough tail end on this that you don't have to go through advertisements, because I'm probably not making any money off of them. It's probably solely YouTube. Just know that. And I'm not begging for subscriptions or anything like that, but if you want to make it nice and easy on yourself to receive updates on these streams and continue along with me, then you should probably subscribe and click that notification bell to always give you updates, and then it'll just send them right to you, and you can keep along with me along the way. And I'll try my hardest not to fill it with too many gaps of this. Because I do have, can't really say, but I need breaks every once in a while. And of course, everybody needs breaks once in a while. And I don't mean for drinking coffee, because I'll do those live. That's how I look, that's how I maintain my level of professionalism with coding. Java required. It's part of it. So before you even bother to install VS, actually get VS installing, then get your coffee, then sit down. Maybe we'll be ready to stream again. Maybe it'll pop up and you can test your notifications. I don't know. I don't know. I can't do everything for you. Yeah, just this. One still there? Let's see. Happy coding. LOL. I get it. Got it. Good. All right. Well, we're going to wrap this one up. See you in the next one.